Eden, hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. Such a pleasure to speak with you about C. But I want to ask you first of all, because when I'm looking over your filmography, you have a lot of, there's, you have Listen, there's C, there's Listen coming up, you have Blind, Sweet Bitter, which is all about tastes as well too. Are you just really gravitated towards sort of sense-oriented projects?
It's very funny that you point that out. Me and my friends have had many good laughs about that. I guess so. That's what it looks like. Very, very sensory oriented. Who knows what the next one will be?
Yeah, I thought maybe you could go back in time for the Kiefer Sutherland show. Touch might be a good fit. You haven't done anything touch oriented. You got to get to all
touch
five,
or feel.
right?
Yeah, there you go. Smell.
What was it about this show in particular? Other than that it was sense oriented. Why did you want to be a part of it?
Well, lots of reasons. I had never seen anything like it before. And huge movie fan. And there's something about the show that just felt so cinematic to me. It didn't feel like a traditional TV show. And I know that TV shows now are becoming more and more sophisticated and are really, in a way, they are long form films. They keep you gripped in the same way, and they have the artistic integrity and detail that films do. And I thought that the world that they built in the first season was so expansive and interesting. And I loved that it was an allegory for global warming. And I thought it was a really interesting way to sort of send out that message with a very intense action show with a star like Jason Momoa. And then you have Alfre Woodard on the show, who I'm a massive fan of. I think that she is one of the most exceptional actresses of all time. And getting to enter into a world where I could learn from people like her and learn from Jason, who both do very different things very, very well, was really exciting to me.
It really does feel like that. I was going to say that this does feel like one of the most cinematic shows I think that I've ever seen. What's it like to film it? How much detail goes into set design and costume and artistic design? I'm sure that is something that probably very much appeals to you.
Absolutely. It is intensely detailed. The crew that they've put together to create the sets, the costumes, hair, makeup, wardrobe, props, everything. There's a really great flow between all of them. And I think that the creativity that goes into not just creating sort of a period piece, this post-apocalyptic, strange sort of amalgamation of what looks like, in season one, it felt very tribal and looked almost like it was the past, but also the future-oriented things with broken down airplanes and abandoned amusement parks and things like that. To have the thought and creativity and imagination around what the world would look like for a population of human beings that can no longer see is really inspired to me. I think that's so impressive when I would walk through the sets and I would see, like, for example, in the second episode of the second season, we walk through Travanti's and you get to see in detail these stalls. It's sort of like the market. And the markets have everything is created around a system in which you can have a staff to guide yourself, sort of like street signs, and they have flowers that you can smell, and everything is available to touch in a different way. And it's just a different way of thinking. And so I think that the entire set and crew really got behind using our imaginations in a really huge way that I think not all shows afford that. Not all projects afford that kind of creativity and imagination.
For Sweet Bitter, you had restaurant experience. You worked at Cafe Orland, since closed, but that tied nicely into the show. For this one, do you have any special skills that were required? I imagine for your character that this is something that you probably had to bring with you, or at least quickly learn.
Absolutely. I had to learn how to fight, which I had no experience in. I'd never done anything that required any kind of stunts. And I was a ballet dancer. I trained to be a professional ballet dancer from the time I was very small until I was 18 or 19 when I got injured. And so that helped with learning choreography, because as a dancer, you have to be able to pick things up really quickly. But the physicality is absolutely opposite. With ballet, you want to be lifted and effortless. Everything's turned out. And in fighting, everything is really low to the ground, turned in, brutal looking, explosive. And so I had to sort of unlearn all of my dance training in order to embody the physicality of this woman who's a warrior. She's a soldier. She's been a soldier her whole life. So we did tons of training. We had an immense stunt crew that worked with us and was very patient with us. I had a fantastic stunt double that patiently taught me how to use a sword and different weapons and different fighting styles. And it was really fun, very gratifying. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do, though.
Incredibly, this season, you up your game in terms of large, behemoth-like people. You know, you already have Jason Momoa. You up it even more with Dave Bautista. What is it like to act opposite people that are that large and that physical? And you seem to, you know, even build those relationships in real life as well too.
I cannot tell you how much I love Dave Bautista as a human being. He and I just really clicked from the jump, which was such a relief. I was so intimidated by him when I first met him, because he's huge, like you say, and he's kind of legendary. And I was just worried that we wouldn't quite get each other, and then I found that he's truly one of the most humble, soft-spoken, kind, gentle, tender, intelligent people. Just like a sweetie, just the biggest, kindest, like teddy bear. And Jason's the same way. So even though they're these really, really large men, they have these really tender spirits and do everything they can to make everyone around them comfortable. I think they know the effect that they can have on people. And once you get to know them, you build a rapport, and it's a friendship. And so most of my scenes, I have more scenes with Dave than I do with Jason, and Dave has become a really good friend and hopefully someone I'll be friends with for life. And I think I've only seen the first 3 episodes. I haven't seen past that. So there's more to come between the two of us. And I'm very curious to see how it turned out. I don't know. Hopefully it'll be great.
Primarily in the first few episodes, you're working with Nesta Cooper, and you have an incredible rapport as well. What can you say about sort of your introduction into the series, really?
She really welcomed me to the show from the jump. So we started right before the pandemic, which was very lucky because I had a little bit of time to integrate myself into the cast. The cast had already had a full season to bond as a family, and I didn't know whether I was gonna mesh with them or be welcomed. And Nesta and Archie and Alfre, actually, honestly, the whole cast really welcomed me. But because Nesta and I knew that we were going to be working together so intimately, so intensely, she made such a huge effort to get to know me, and we, I think, could not have a better relationship for the work that we have to do. And then outside of work, we have so much fun and we hang out constantly. So she's become a really great friend. And I just think she's such a talented actor. She's so instinctive. She's so generous in scenes, deeply intuitive, so wise beyond her years, that it's been really special to get to share scenes with her and get to know her. And
originally also from Toronto as well.
From Vancouver, yeah.
Right. What's it been like shooting the series in Toronto? What do you feel like that sort of setting provides for your show?
It's cold.
Yeah.
It's really cold.
So that's not fake snow that you're shooting in.
No, we did a whole, there are fights and blizzards that we shot in blizzards. Yeah, it was freezing. It was really frigid in a way that, being from California, and living in New York for the past 11 years, winters in New York aren't like winters in Toronto. The snow just doesn't stick in the same way. And so I think that, yeah, there's a real ambiance of just a chill in the air that's sort of spooky and dark and ominous. And Toronto definitely affords that. You wouldn't know that we were in Toronto watching the show, though. It feels very, to me, sort of just otherworldly. So Toronto's a great city to shoot in, though. I mean, and now being here in the summer, there's so much more to do. I like it a lot more than I did in the winter, but it was hard in lockdown for sure.
What's it like shooting a post-apocalyptic show when the world might be coming to an end or something?
It's like a sick harbinger. I'm like, I don't want the show to be true. But it was eerie shooting, shutting down for the pandemic, and then coming back to shoot this post-apocalyptic show where a pandemic wipes out all but a couple million people. The escapism that acting can afford is one of the great luxuries of acting, and you can find such joy, and you can find sort of an opposite emotion to whatever you might be feeling in your life by getting to play a scene. And in this show, it's all very, very dark and heavy. And it's a very dark, heavy time in the world. And so there wasn't that escapism on this one. We had joy in between takes. That was really important. We laughed and had a lot of fun in between takes, but there wasn't like, it felt very congruous actually with what was happening in the world to film something like this.
So in terms of your character work, is it fair to say this does feel like an immersion? You know, when I'm watching you on screen and talking to you now, it's like completely different. I almost don't even see you in the role, or you just fall so deeply into it. What do you build on? What's your base for the character?
Oh, wow. That's very kind of you to say. First of all, thank you. I think it has to do with just, first of all, we're all multifaceted people. I think we have so many different people within us. And if we're open to exploring those parts of ourselves, we can do it. And I think that Wren is a stoic. She's had to have such stoicism in her life because of living a closeted life. And it did actually feel, I remember when I first got the sides, when I was auditioning for it, I didn't get a script. I got a short character breakdown, and I got one set of dummy sides. It wasn't even exactly what I was going to be acting. And it felt like, oh, this is sort of a stretch. I don't know that they're going to hire someone who is this person, because TV often does that. It's a lot easier, and you just know that you're going to get what you need. And I don't know, I guess I fooled them well enough to get a shot at it. And I think the way that I thought about Wren being persecuted was, the only way that I could really relate to it was to think about, I'm Jewish, and to think about historically what it would be like to be a Jew in hiding during World War II, or to actually have to become a Nazi in order to protect themselves even more, and to sort of hide in plain sight in that way, and to know that if you're outed, you're executed. That's it. So that was the only way that I could sort of get into these insanely high stakes that in life, I'm very lucky that I don't have stakes as high as that. And my life isn't threatened on a daily basis. And that's a massive privilege. So, so that was a way for me to sort of find my way in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How does it feel like to be on a show? I don't imagine you've ever been involved with a project that involves this much privacy, secrecy, kind of like, what can I reveal at what time? But the payoff is massive because, from what we've seen already, and from what I imagine is to come this season, there's a lot that's happening. What are you excited? And week to week as well, which is so much fun to see. What are you excited for people to see this season?
Oh, wow. I am really excited for everyone to watch these characters grow and change, because they grow and change so much. The arcs for all of the characters individually are massive and unexpected. And I think really, they're just humanizing. Like I haven't seen all of them, but I've read all the scripts and I've gotten to know all the actors. And I think that by the end of the season, everyone's just going to feel more and more connected and have more love for all of the characters as they go on. And there's just so much exciting action that happens, which I'm not an avid action film watcher at all, or action show watcher. And this is insane to be a part of something like this and to watch it. It's really unlike anything I've ever done or seen. So it's really cool.
Have you watched anything recently that you just thought was incredible?
Yes. So I've started watching TV much more aggressively. I'm a huge Criterion Channel person. I watch films on Criterion Channel a lot. So I won't talk about those, but I just finished watching a couple nights ago, The Underground Railroad, the Barry Jenkins series. And that absolutely throttled me. Like I've never talk about a cinematic show, first of all. Have you seen it?
Yeah. But it's so hard to watch. It's a very, very, you don't just kind of turn it on and forget about it, right? You gotta live that world.
Yeah, it's haunting, and but it's such an important story, I think, to watch. And it's done so artfully and with so much love and fierce integrity, and the performances, Tuzo, the woman, the lead, is breathtaking. I cannot imagine what these actors went through in filming that. So from as a viewer, I was completely haunted and pulled in, and because of the cinematography, because of the writing, because of the music, everything, and then the acting. And then as an actor, I was just utterly in awe of how brave everyone was in making it. And then I also loved Call My Agent, the French show. That was one of my favorite shows to watch. I'm very late to things. So I watched that over the pandemic and just fell in love with all those characters. I'm a huge Francophile, so that was really fun. And then Succession is one of my favorite shows. I just think that they're all geniuses and would kill to be a part of something like that. So I'm all over the place. Those are the three that come top of mind.
So when I'm watching your promotion for Sweet Bitter, you kind of found a new niche in terms of sort of where it fit within television. I don't think we'd seen a show like that either. And for C, between this and some of the offerings from Apple TV Plus, I don't think I've ever experienced a time where there's just been so much content, but so much good content and television content, which is unlike anything we've ever seen before. So, how does it feel that, this is the place where things are happening and your show is very much at the center of that?
It's really exciting. I just think it's amazing to have as many different voices as we can, creating really interesting, diverse content so that viewers can have something that they relate to or where they can see themselves. And I'm really proud to be a part of a show that is as diverse as it is as far as the cast goes. That I've never experienced that before, and that's amazing and so important. And I think that the viewership is just I think this is a show that I don't know the ratings exactly, but from what I've heard, it's a very eclectic group of people that likes to watch it, and that's really cool.
And as to your point, the diversity on the show doesn't really seem to be, this is a post-apocalyptic future, but it's not, we're not divided into different tribes because of our race or nationality or anything like that necessarily. It's also a show that can really be read a lot of thematically interesting topics. You talked about some of yours, but do you like that? Do you like that it's so open to the interpretation? Do you like that people really respond to it in different ways?
Definitely. I think that something that's really interesting about the show is that it's a post-racial world, and yet human beings still find a way to discriminate and oppress each other. And it's sort of that's a pretty cynical, or you could say realistic portrayal of human interaction. That in this world, it's just if you have sight, then you deserve to be oppressed and condemned. And playing a character that is affected by that personally, it's a really, I think it's a very relatable sort of extender into what the world is actually like, unfortunately. Maybe it'll open people's eyes in a way. It's like, oh, how absurd that in that world, if you have sight, you're considered a witch and you should be burned at the stake. Hopefully it'll open some people's eyes. Who knows?
Right. I want to ask you lastly, because I found something that, when you were on campus, this was from about 6 or 7 years ago that came up. You did sort of like an on-campus fashion article that was spotlighting you, and there was something so interesting about you at the time that it was like, you even just talked about, you said you'd had an egg sandwich that morning and it was like epic. that was like your fun fact about you. And, when you were promoting Sweet Bitter, you talked about your last meal. That was the question at the beginning, that you'd said a cheeseburger and a milkshake, which I thought was really, really interesting and a good choice too, by the way.
You.
I mean, at the beginning I talked about it, but like, are you very much sense driven? Is this something that, do you lead with that? But did this egg sandwich have sort of like an epicness to it, or what was going on?
Okay, this is very funny, Charles. I think that they asked me, maybe I did say, maybe it'd be ridiculous if my answer to tell us a fun fact about you was that I ate an epic egg sandwich. Oh God, the internet's really terrible. This is why I haven't been on Instagram for many years, is because you say stupid things and then they come back and haunt you. I am very sense driven. I think that I am. I'm a deep feeling person. But no, I mean, maybe I'm an actor. So I think, yeah, we like to feel things, right? So sure, yes, let's say yes.
Well, this season has so many epic moments, I'm sure, to come, and so many epic small moments as well, too.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen a show that's so big, and then, you find the beauty in the details as well. So very
I agree. Oh, thank you, Charles. I appreciate it.
You must be incredibly, incredibly excited. I mean, you've had to, to sit with this show for what, 2 years now?
2 years, yeah.
For people to see it, for people to see you on it, you must be like really excited.
I'm nervous. I'm excited. I don't know what to expect. I've never been a part of something on this scale before. I've never played a character like this before. So that this is just a huge basket of firsts for me. And so it's nerve-wracking, but it is so exciting. And I just feel really proud that the world finally gets to see what the incredible crew and cast have been working on throughout this insane time. So
it's been such a joy hearing you, seeing you. Some of the other senses, I guess, aren't there with Zoom. We're not we're virtually in a room together, not actually, but it really has been wonderful just to
Charles,
get a little bit of an insight into your process. And I cannot wait for these episodes to come out.
I appreciate it. It's been really lovely talking with you too. Thanks for taking the time.